So I once shared Christ with a woman who said, some people think that I'm bad enough to go to hell. You don't think that, do you? And honestly, I get it. It's a real common thought. As a matter of fact, Timothy Keller said, in our culture, divine judgment is one of Christianity's most offensive doctrines. Let's face it, even Christians downplay it. They say, I grew up in church and I never did anything really that bad. Think about it for a second. The Christian position is this: you're bad enough, your sin is bad enough that you are going to spend eternity separated from God in a place called hell, if not for Jesus Christ. Surely Christians can't really think that a little lying, a little cheating, a little selfishness is bad enough, is justification enough for someone to go to a place that is apart from God, a place of pain called hell. We can't really think that, can we? And it's a good question. It's a legitimate question. It's a question we should be willing to answer. And the Bible doesn't have an answer for it. It says that sin is not just something we do, but it's a condition of our heart. It's a rebellion. It's an intentional leaving of the path, like we've already talked about. As a matter of fact, James chapter 2, verse 10 says, you can keep all the commands and break it at one point, and you're still guilty of breaking it all. And that sounds strange. Why would he say a thing like that? Because if we fail at that one point, what we are revealing about ourselves is that we are the ones that pick and choose what we'll obey. We'll say, oh yeah, I'll obey most of this, but some of this, I'm not going to obey it. I'm going to do my own thing. And that's still a rebel heart, because we're just playing games then. We're playing that game of we get to pick and choose what we're going to obey that God gives us, right? The commands God gives us, we'll decide whether we are going to obey it or not. And who's really in charge if we're doing that? It's us, right? And the Bible says that state of heart is the heart of rebellion. We don't get to detach the rules and say, these are the rules I'm going to obey, these are the rules I'm not going to obey, these are the ones I like, these are the ones I don't like, and I'm going to be the one that's in charge. It's all well and good that God should give these to me, but ultimately, I'll decide what I'm going to obey and what I won't obey. Well, that's rebellion. Now, we could still ask the question, wait a minute, you mean that our rebellion here today has eternal consequences, and that for all time, just for the things we do today, we're going to be punished for all time? Now, here's the thing about that. We always imagine that somebody who ends up in hell would want to turn to God. But why is that necessarily the case? We're making some assumptions there, aren't we? Because they didn't want to turn to God here. What would make us think that the rebel heart that doesn't want anything to do with God, his ways, or his Christ, why would we think that suddenly this person is going to want those things on the other side? Because as awful as it might be to be without God, they didn't want God here. And I get the sense they're not going to want him there either. So the question, is our sin bad enough to send us to hell? Yeah, it is, because we're rebels against God's kingdom. We wouldn't fit there. We wouldn't fit in heaven, because we wouldn't want to obey and come to submit our lives, our whole life, inside and out, to him. So it's not even a fit. And as a result of that rebellion, yeah, it does send you to hell. It does send you apart from God and for all time.